What if surrender on your fertility journey is not about giving up, but rather opening the door to your success? Welcome back to Fertile Frequencies Radio, and today we are softening into that truth. I'm joined by Kerry Hinds, the owner and founder of Fertile Body Yoga, a virtual yoga studio devoted to supporting women on their fertility journey, in whatever form that journey takes. Kerry offers live stream and on-demand fertility yoga classes and intimate small group programs that honor the whole person, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, and socially. In this conversation, we explore how slowing down, releasing urgency, and attuning to feminine receptivity creates the inner environment where conception becomes natural and aligned. Kerry's work invites us to stop pushing the body and start partnering with it. Because when you move from pressure into presence, you create space for miracles to find you. So take a breath, open your heart, and allow yourself to receive what's meant for you. And let's step into the episode. Welcome to Fertile Frequencies Radio, the podcast that's here to revolutionize your fertility journey by going beyond hormones and cycle tracking. We combine science, spirit, and mindset to help you finally achieve success. If you're done with the same old fertility advice, you've come to the right place. This is where we celebrate every fertile win and empower you to view your fertility as so much more than just your physical body. Get ready for powerful stories, expert insights, and interviews, and endless amounts of encouragement to uplift and inspire you every step of the way. Well, welcome back to Fertile Frequencies Radio. I am so excited to welcome my guest today. I am in the presence of the wonderful Kerry Hinds, and she is the founder of Fertile Body Yoga. So really excited to welcome you, Kerry. How are you?
I am good. Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, we're so excited to have you. And I know that you do a lot in the world of fertility. So people listening to this may have experience with hearing you on other podcasts or your fertility podcast as well. And just real quick, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The podcast that I host is called Fringe Fertility, and it is a podcast that really what I wanted to do is take conversations that you would never have in the doctor's office with your RE about fertility and bring them out into the open. Fringe is sort of tongue in cheek in a way because a lot of these practices that I'm talking to, for example, you were on the podcast, and other folks, like these are more traditional and ancient systems that we're looking into to support ourselves in fertility. And they have somehow become fringe in Western science when really they've been around a lot longer. And people have been using them for centuries and centuries and centuries. So that's the podcast. Yeah. Fringe fertility.
Yeah, I love it. We'll definitely check it out. She has a lot of really great people on her podcast. Yeah, tell us more about how you got into this and about your own personal fertility journey.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try and get all the information out. Because it's a bit of a story, like everybody's story, right? Like, I didn't start really wanting to have kids till I was in my mid 30s and there was no good timing. And then all of a sudden I moved to Germany and I didn't have a job. My husband was working and we were like, this might be a good time to have a baby. And I was in a foreign country and I didn't even think that it would be an issue. Like it was just as we often do. We're like, I'm ready for a baby. Therefore, the baby will come because I want it. And we tried for months and it wasn't happening. Ended up going to an IVF clinic. We were really lucky. We lived in a fairly small German town, but it was a university town. And there was actually a clinic, an IVF clinic right there in town. So I think like if we were still in the States, I don't know if we would have done IVF, like because it was so cheap in Germany, like one round was about 1,500 euro. So like $2,000 a round. And we were like, well, I mean, we're here. Maybe it's a sign. There's a fertility clinic here. We should just go for it. And, I was getting older, etc. And so we we went to the clinic. They did the testing we had a dual factor. Both of our numbers were a little wonky. And we just kind of rolled right into it, into IUI first. We did get pregnant, and then sadly, we lost that baby. And then after a few more IUIs that were unsuccessful, we moved into IVF, moved through fresh transfers, all the stim cycles, frozen transfers. We did about 4 or 5 of those, and with no success at all. And during that whole time, I was doing yoga to keep my sanity and to keep my stress levels down. And I had come from a background of really high energy, high output, power yoga, Ashtanga yoga, arm balances, and all the crazy things. And when I started trying to conceive, I was like, I don't need that anymore. That is not what my body needs right now. My body needs nourishment, replenishment, not depletion. I don't need to get big burly muscles, like I need to soften and create space. So I really slowed my yoga practice down and did more restorative yoga, more meditation, just a quieter, more thoughtful and peaceful yoga practice, not about um, exercise and getting my yoga bum anymore or whatever. So I sort of integrated that into my experience. And then when we got to that last IVF round, I was like, you know what? I feel like we're kind of done here. Like I didn't feel like myself so much anymore. My body was changing, our relationship was changing, our sex life was changing, what we did in our spare time was changing. Like it just took over everything. So we basically decided to walk away from IVF. And then 2 months later, I was pregnant with my first son without any intervention at all. And then 9 months after he was born, I was pregnant again with my second son, which was a big, 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 big surprise. So that's sort of my story in a nutshell. And like in the middle of all that, I actually went and got my yoga teacher training certificate, even though I had been teaching yoga for many years. This was way back, like I've been teaching yoga for 20 years now, that your teacher would just tap you on the shoulder and say, it's your turn, let's get you teaching. There was no formal training like there is now. So I had been teaching, but then I decided I should go get my certification, be legit. And so I did that in the middle of the journey, up until I had kids. So that's a bit of that piece of my story. But how I came to do fertility yoga was we moved from Germany to Boston. I started working at a prenatal yoga studio, and I said to the owner, I was like, listen, we're missing a step, right? Like there's this whole other world, preconception, fertility. People are struggling having kids and we're not supporting them. We're just like, you're pregnant, come do yoga, postpartum yoga too. And of course, they're both great, but let's put in that hidden piece. And she was like, sure, if you want to do that, go ahead. So then I just sort of started researching. There wasn't a lot going on anywhere really. There's like 3 or 4 people in the States that did it, a few people in Australia, someone in like Denmark. So it was really like just kind of had to figure out what fertility yoga was to me. And I pulled a lot of my own experiences and, what I was going through and how the mental emotional piece was so like, I don't want to say overpowering, but it was definitely a part that we don't speak about very often. We just are like, we want our baby. Let's go in. Let's have our baby. We don't think, oh, right, this might have an effect on my mental, emotional health, or physical health too. That's another piece. So then I started teaching fertility yoga in Boston, and we did that for a few years. And then I just took everything online right before COVID. So I had a lucky moment where I was like already set up online, literally launched my website like a month before COVID happened and shut everything down. So I could go from the studio straight into the virtual world. And that was like 5 years ago. When was COVID? I don't even know. 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah.
I think, yeah, almost 6 years ago is a
It's
long time ago.
crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, you said something that, first of all, congratulations on your 2 babies.
Thank you.
That's wonderful, and that just goes to show, and I was speaking to the choir here, I mean, you absolutely understand what I'm gonna say, or you wouldn't be in this work, as is that when we surrender and stop focusing so much on the outcome, even though that's hard if you want a baby. Obviously, that's really hard because there's that maternal instinct there. And also for dads, too. It's not just for women, but men also feel that as well. And anyone that wants to have children, how about that? But what you realized is that I have to do something different. What I'm doing is not working. And
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit about you said something that really sticks out to me that I notice a lot with people. And I really want you to talk about this, about your experience with this, is that over exercising and overdoing and how that affects your body and how that affects your body thinking this is a safe place for pregnancy.
Mhm. Yeah, I have this conversation a lot because a lot of students come to me. They're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm gonna try this fertility yoga thing, and I've been doing yoga for 15 years, and I do vinyasa and I do hot power yoga and all of these sort of exercise focused Western sort of take on yoga. And yoga was never, ever, like thousands of years ago in the text, it was not about exercise at all. It
Mhm.
wasn't at all. It was about finding a seat for meditation. And it was a very soft practice. It was all about sthira and sukha. So strength and ease, or like stability and ease. So we can't find the ease without form. But the form doesn't have to be this crazy, crazy, like acrobatic gymnastic thing that yoga has come to be now. I always think of it as depletion when we're already running around depleted. And maybe this is a good time to talk about sort of the masculine and the feminine energies that we come
Right.
in
Yeah.
contact
Please.
with.
Mhm.
But if even in our Western society, we live in a very masculine. And if you don't like masculine, feminine energy words, because some people roll their eyes when I say feminine energy, you can think of it more as like solar energy, like the sun, or the lunar energy, the moon, right? So the sun is hot, it's fiery, it's working hard, it's lots of transformation energy. And that's more of this masculine. And that is what our society is. Do, right? Create, like just do all the time. Push, push, push. It's very linear. It's rational.
Mhm.
It's kind of like breaking things down into little boxes and how do we put things together, right? So we live in that already. It's hot, right? So we're either creating our bodies are getting too hot, right? From all of this masculine energy, or they're also getting too dry too, right? Because that heat is just drying us up. So then on the flip side, we have the feminine, which is more of the nourishing energy, the being overdoing, the more quiet, cool energies. And this is something that I think our society has sidelined for so many years or decades, centuries, really, that the feminine is not important in any way, or there's no value to it. Like being emotional, right? We think about emotions, and this is a very feminine thing. And I don't know, maybe even when I said emotional and being it feminine, did you think that to be negative? Is being emotional a negative thing, right? It's not. It's just what it is. Like we work on a different cycle than the masculine energies that we're kind of living in all of our life. So when we look at sort of these yogas, we want to do yoga that embraces the feminine. So we stay away from the more masculine exercise, power yoga, hot yoga, etc., and then move more to restorative and slow flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for all of that. There's something that you said that really sticks out to me that I often talk about on the spiritual side. And obviously everything you're talking about is spiritual. It definitely makes sense from a physical perspective and scientific as well that I'm a spirit baby medium. So I'm a channel for communicating with unborn baby souls coming into physical bodies. And so the information that I've received is that it's not only about the physical body being ready, but it's also about the energetic part of you being ready for the baby as well. So the energetic part of you, and even though we're talking about the sun and we think of the sun, the masculine as energy, I'm talking more about the creative energies, the unknown, the feminine energies. And to be able to receive these children in, these souls now that are coming into our bodies, which our bodies essentially are portals for bringing life into this world, that we have to be more integrated in the feminine energy. So it's not only on the physical that our bodies have to be not dry. And of course, we haven't talked about Ayurveda yet, but that's something we're going to talk about. Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine have a lot of crossover in the hot and the dry versus the moisture and the nourishment. And so but that feminine energy, we need all that. We need all that, in Chinese medicine, it's yin, and we also need the yang because the yang, which is that warmth and the sun, is really helping to move the energy. So the yang helps with that. And things like ovulation, like progesterone,
Mm-hmm.
very yang energy, where estrogen is going to be much more of the yin energy. And so more of that nourishment, feminine energy. So it's interesting because we have to be more in the feminine energy because the kids that are coming in now, or I'm just going to call them kids, the baby souls coming in now, they are in the feminine energy. They're here to create a completely different human experience than what our generations have known. And our
Mm.
generations have worked more on the lower chakras of really clearing that ancestral trauma. And these kids coming in now are much more in the higher consciousness of more of the feminine energy of, I think the universe is feminine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's probably a good mix of both, but
I think so too. I think so
yeah.
too.
Yeah, and it doesn't have anything to do with man or woman. I mean, this is just the way the universe is made up, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but we all come through a portal. Portals are, s- from my understanding, the way that I see it is that portals are the feminine energy.
Mhm.
So, it's interesting. It's interesting that you bring this up because it ties into a philosophy that I have about the spirit babies. And part of the energetic spiritual part of why there is a lot of fertility obstacles. Not a fan of the word infertility, so I'm going to try not to say it
Mm.
because people listening to this, I can't stress this enough. And Carrie, you probably agree with this, that there's nothing wrong with you. It's a very small percentage of people that truly, truly, truly are not going to be able to conceive. And then there's other ways to have babies. Um, I think most fertility obstacles, infertility, is people are tagged with that when there hasn't been enough investigation.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And especially unexplained infertility. I can't remember if we talked about this on my podcast or not,
Talk
so I don't
about it.
want to but and I've heard it so many times. It's a lazy diagnosis in that you go to your RE and they're looking for specific things to explain why you're not getting pregnant, all in the physical body, physiology, so endocrine system, and so on. And if you don't perfectly fit into one of those boxes, they just say, well, I don't know, but something's going on, so it's unexplained. So it's unexplained in that Western medical view, right? Through those glasses. But if you move into any of the Eastern traditions of medicine, they will have an explanation. But it's not about diagnosing. That's the thing. It's like we're not looking at this is exactly what you have and this is what you do to fix it. We're looking, like we talked about, like is it too hot? Is it too cold? Like what's your inner environment going on and is it conducive to baby? And in Ayurveda we say like warm and moist, right? Everybody's favorite word, moist. But like warm and moist, like that is where life lives. So if you're too dry or you're too hot or you're too wet or too damp, right? Or too cold, it's just that inner climate is not going to be conducive. It will not welcome a new life.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be balanced, and we cannot just say that everything is explainable or that it's scientific.
Yeah.
We have to have an integrative practice here. And so that's what we're about. That's why we have podcasts. We have all kinds of different providers on our shows and really helping people to see that there's so much more options than just getting fertility treatments from the reproductive endocrinologist. And it's definitely not about, I just have to state this because I've talked about this a lot too, because I see a lot of, oh, well, we're doing all holistic medicine. We're not gonna support science anymore. I see providers
Mhm.
doing that too, and I'm not a fan of that. I believe
Yeah.
that we're integrative, we're helping each other to get to the goal that we all have is to help somebody conceive and have a healthy pregnancy. That's
Mhm.
why we're doing this. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, really great information. I love that you shared all of that, and your story is so inspiring as well in what you do. We kind of been talking about this, but I'm going to let you talk more in detail about it because I know this is an area that you really like to talk about. What do you feel as someone that is on both sides of the spectrum here that struggled with fertility, but also has helped thousands of couples and women to be able to conceive healthy pregnancies? What do you feel is missing in the world of fertility?
Well, big exhale. I mean, like you said, I probably could talk about this for a while from my own personal experiences. I think a lot has changed.
Mhm.
So for example, when I was going through, like my kids are now 13 and 11. So like this was many, many, many years ago. Social media wasn't really a thing. Facebook was just starting. Like I didn't have like this outward world imposing itself on me all the time about what to do, what not to do, and so on. And I think what's missing, God, number one, what's missing? Discernment. So
Mhm.
like how can we take in all this information that's coming at us? You're on the algorithm on Instagram or whatever, or you're Google searching. Maybe you're not even on social media and you just search for things on Google, or now AI is going to tell you a bunch of things too. You're getting all this information, and it's a lot to have to digest, right? Like we need to digest every single thing that we read. It goes into our brain. Our brain needs to take power and energy to digest it and decide whether or not we keep it or lose it. And we're right now, and I think it's being more highlighted now with AI just in the last few months of like what's real and what's not real. What can you listen to? What can you trust, right? So I think there's an overwhelm right now. So I think discernment is like one of the things is missing. And number two, I'm going to go with energy. So we often talk about it. And even my fertility doctors who I love and I work with and we collaborate all the time, um, they are talking about mind and body. They're talking about the importance of mental, emotional support as you're going through this, or other things that you can do, like nutrition's important, go do some yoga, etc. Um, but what brings together mind and body? The
Mm,
bridge between mind and body is energy, right? Like that is what's connecting those two, and creating the whole, right? Because even when we say mind body, they're separated. Right? So, like, when we think of energy being sort of the overarching thing that is holding everything together, that is what I think is really truly missing, is that when we look at fertility, we just break it down into the physical and into mental emotional support, which of course is very important. I'm not saying it's not.
mm,
But how do we create the right frequency? How do we have energy flowing in a way that it's picking up the right frequency of the baby that wants to come in? And some people will think that sounds really crazy, right? I'm sure you've heard it before,
No
right?
one on here.
No, yeah,
No one that
exactly.
listens to this. Yeah.
Yeah. But like we need to vibrate at the same energy we want
Hmm.
that, and those babies are vibrating at a high energy. They're the highest energy there is, right? So it's like, can we match those? So those are two. And then, okay, one more. I'm just gonna do one more. Because like I said, I could go on and on. But the third one, I think, if I were to choose, I wanted to just say the word space or spaciousness around the journey, because a lot of people feel rushed. Biological clock rushing, but also their doctors tend to rush them, or like there's never this like take a beat, step back, breathe. Like there very rarely is there a true like fertility emergency, right? Like yes, sometimes there are like medical emergencies, but like when there's decisions to be made, when there's information to take in, like it's not an emergency. You do not need to decide in that moment with your doctor. Like you can say, thanks for this information. I'm going to go sit with it, use my discerning brain, figure out what's best for me and my energy, and I'll get back to you. Like you do not need to make a decision, right? So a little bit more space around all the decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of emotional and energetic overwhelm.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
much. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. What would you say when you talk about the connection of the body and the mind in that energetic space? How would you help someone to understand more about how they can connect with that higher frequency that you talk about?
So yoga for me is how I first originally was able to really connect with energy, because
Hmm.
before that it was just like an esoteric concept. And yes, I knew we had synapses and electrical impulses in our body and all these things, but like to actually feel the energy or see the energy, for me, that was yoga. And then a lot of that sort of stemmed into actually visualizing and moving energy in my body. So using visualization techniques. Um, which I do in my yoga classes, because I think people will really start to connect. And for me also, stillness was really important. So being still in my body so I could connect with the inner terrain, like what is going on in the inside of my body when I'm lying still. And that's what I love about restorative yoga as well. But the slow flow is nice for that too, because, once you move around a little bit and then you pause and you notice, like we have to give ourselves the opportunity to pause to notice the effects of the yoga poses. That's the yoga. That is truly the yoga, not the pose itself, but the aftermath of the whispers that are happening in your body. So,
Absolutely. And what would you like if you could explain to someone that might not know, what would you explain that feeling like when you're connecting with the energy and you're connecting energy or spirit, whatever you want to call it? Like, how would you like what is that? I can give you an example after. I'm just curious to know, and I will absolutely I have my own examples, and I feel like a lot of people have similar sort of feelings.
mm,
But how would you explain that to someone that maybe had never experienced it before? What does it physically feel like?
so physically, for me, it feels, uh, for lack of a better word, fuzzy, like
Yeah.
a fuzziness. Like
Mhm.
there's like a vibration, basically, that's like just happening, but it's not like my body's physically vibrating. It's just like I can feel a fuzziness underneath like my skin, and like my body kind of, if we think about like your body disappears, what are you left with, right? Like that sort of
Mhm.
feeling. So
Mhm.
I would say fuzziness, but then also just this overwhelming sense of peacefulness and ease.
I love that. I call it glitter on the inside.
Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
borrow
so you
that.
right? And you explained that really well when you said that. I'm like, "Oh, that's what I feel too, but it feels like sparkles on the
Mm,
inside, glittery." Um, I also a transcendental moment. I
Mm.
think transcendental moments are another way to really feel your higher self spirit. It's all the same thing. Consciousness, the oneness. And that is just like you wake up from that if you're in a really good meditation. And I know that yoga puts you in that as well. Um, that it feels like that feeling when you have a really good workout, but you didn't work out. Like it feels like
Mm.
all your cells have been regenerated and you just have been doing these lots of breathing, but you haven't. I mean, you do breathing in yoga, but like when I'm meditating or I'm doing deep states of consciousness, I might start off with breathing, but I'm not doing it. I'm actually just doing normal breathing when I'm in those states. Your breathing actually slows down. But it regenerates your cells. So that also is a way that I feel spirit is through it. It's like getting up and you're like, I feel like I just had like a 10 hours of sleep, but you didn't. It was like maybe a 20-minute transcendental experience that you had. But transcendental moments a lot of times are maybe a minute where you have those
Mm.
really deep states, but they literally are repairing like 10 hours of sleep to your body. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's and it's so crazy how our world wants proof of everything. And the unseen energies are so powerful. And this is the feminine energy. So here we're back at the feminine energy. It's unknown for us. And it's
Mm-hmm.
scary when we first start doing this, but it's slowly allowing yourself and always giving yourself permission to do this stuff. Like you don't need permission from anybody to like go within your own consciousness and experience
Mm.
wonderful peaceful energy, the glitter on the inside, the sparkles, the fuzziness, however you explain it. Yeah, so Carrie, thank you so much for that. And what do you feel that people could do, like someone that might be going through assisted fertility treatments, or it could be natural conception as well. What do you think? What's some advice that you could possibly give them about maybe how they could increase their success rates? Maybe something.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, come and do a fertility yoga class if you're listening and you want to try it out, because I think until you actually experience it, and you have to experience it like multiple times, because the first time's a little bit like, whoa, what just happened? Second time is like, okay, here I am again, and then by the fourth or fifth, the light bulbs go off for people. It's like, oh, this is what we're doing. I get it now. And a lot of it is moving into that sense of expansiveness, the one, like we are of the same fabric of the universe that is all around us, right? So how we connect to that, like you were talking about. But when we're speaking very specifically about fertility, one of the things I think is one of the best ways to really get into the rhythm of nature, and finding this rhythmical sense of your physiology, your mental, emotional. So tuning into your cycle, like where you are, so if you're doing a natural cycle, no intervention at all. You're looking at your follicular phases, and that's like when your follicles are growing and things are popping off and there's a lot of energy. And ovulation, you're the queen bee. Like these are really high energy times, right? Our bodies are just glowing. We feel fucking awesome all the time because we got all that estrogen. And right, we can match our practice to those energies, right? So this is when like some twisting and a little bit more movement can be really, really wonderful. And then after ovulation, you're looking at a quieter time, the luteal phase. You got more progesterone. Things are just kind of coming down. And we might be pregnant too. So we want to take that into consideration. So we slow our bodies down, and we slow down so much that we eventually end up into menstruation if we are not pregnant, or into pregnancy. And it's just so nice to connect to those rhythms, because, like we were talking about before, we really live in this masculine 24-hour a day cycle, right? Like they just every 24 hours is something, they just recycle every 24 hours. We have a 28-ish day recycle period. So we need to start paying attention to that on, the physical level, but also mental, emotional, hormonal level, like what's happening. And then when you put in a frozen embryo transfer or you're doing a stim cycle, we say, okay, like what is happening in the body right now? So
Mhm.
we want to be both safe, like we don't want to do anything that would harm what is happening in the body, but we also want to be supportive so we can increase what we're doing, right? Like give it a little boost. So with stim cycles, I think this is one I get most questions about because there are so many weird things happening in your body when you're doing stims, being that your ovaries are growing bigger and bigger and bigger and could be the size of grapefruits. So that can be really uncomfortable for a lot of people. And there are some very specific contraindications that you would follow for stims. Like you would never go into a full inversion. Not that I would ever do that in a fertility yoga class anyway, but if you're stimming and you go to your regular yoga class and they want you to do like handstand or headstand or something, you'd skip it because of the ovarian torsion. So, like, your ovaries will flip over on themselves and you could lose an ovary. Like, so there are things that you just want to be aware of. Um, so, when we're stimming, we are taking it easy. We're not twisting and putting tons of pressure down on the pelvic area. There are things that you can do too if you're a low responder. So some people who are like, I do all the drugs, I only get like 1 or 2 eggs, then you can do some extra stimulation in that area, but that's a whole other, won't get into that. So following following the pattern, like what is the rhythm that is being created? And it's either a natural rhythm that our body's going through on our cycle, or it's a forced rhythm with IVF, right? Like what we're doing. Did that answer? I hope it did.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I think that it can be hard. I know in my experience for people to understand that are going through IVF, if we just talk about that, that we're not exercise is not something that's recommended. In fact, your RE is going to say, except for walking, that's generally what, or maybe some light yoga, that's generally what I recommend. But I know you have specific programs that you do recommend to people that you've created. And so that's definitely your expert.
Yeah.
So I know you know about that. But yeah, and I feel like too that I see so much A-type personality, you probably do too, and it's the
Yeah.
doer, it's like you're talking about, it's the doer, and we're so conditioned into thinking like that, and I feel like the exercise can be like that too, that, "Well, if I don't do this, then I'm gonna gain weight," or I can't tell you how many clients I've had
Mm.
over the years that are so afraid to gain weight, and I have to work with them on that part of the journey and really healing that, because those are trauma responses, and really
Mhm.
being able to get to a place where, "Oh, I'm okay with gaining 10 pounds or 15 pounds," or of course, on IVF, you're gonna gain weight generally because your body's retaining so much water from the drugs, unfortunately. I highly recommend, people do some sort of movement. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, every doctor is gonna be different, especially if you're doing, like, an IVF cycle, but it's not like you're doing IVF, never work out or never do exercise, it's just, like, very specific times, like, your stim cycle, it's about 10 days, and then after your retrieval, you'll wanna take it easy until you feel better again, but that's really the only time where I'd say, like, walking is great, coming down and doing some fertility yoga. And I cue for all of these things when I'm teaching. Like, I'm like, if you're stimming, you're going to do this. If you're doing that, because it's a big group class where everybody's all over the map. So everybody gets a little bit of where they need to be or where to pause or where to hold on to for a little bit. But yeah, there's so much we can do to support, like the frozen embryo transfer. This we really want to focus on getting that endometrium, the lining,
Mhm.
super juicy, super ready, super receptive. So the first part of that program is actually really active. People are always so like, "Oh my God, what just happened?" Like, "What? This is not fertility." I'm like, "No, but it's just because if you come to a group class, I can't do this very specifically for this time because everybody's there." So that first preparation phase before the transfer, there's twisting, there's movement, there's blood flow. Like we want to get energy and blood moving, oxygenated blood into the pelvic area. So yeah, there's lots that we can do to support ourselves when we're doing IVF, and just notice like where the windows are of like, this is not a good time, and you can still move. You can still, yeah, I mean, you're not going to go run marathons necessarily because that's too depleting to your system. But yeah, you can still go on a nice hike and go for a walk, go for a little bike ride. I mean, all those things are totally fine. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Carrie, what would you generally recommend for someone in getting their endometrium juicy? I like that. Like how many weeks do you recommend before doing an FET cycle?
Um, so if I understand, so you're saying how much time would I give my body, the
Yeah,
preparation time,
right.
like coming off of
Absolutely.
stims and moving in? I mean, ideally, and people are not going to love this answer. I can tell you that, like 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it often ends up to be about 3 months when you're looking at insurance coverage and timing and windows and the doctor's going on vacation or is it Christmas or whatever. So often we think it's just going to be boom, 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 but there's more time. But during that pause of like retrieval to transfer, right? It's a rebalancing phase, right? It's like coming off of these crazy hormones, rebalancing your cycle and your rhythm and getting back into your rhythm, so that, like you said, we could start to create that juicy endometrium that we
Right.
want so badly, right? Like, um, yeah, it breaks my heart when people say to me all the time, "Oh, like my lining's not thick enough. My lining's not thick enough." And I mean, we can talk Ayurvedically about this as well. Like, there's so many different levels we can work on, but very basically with the yoga, it's just like squeeze and release, twist and release, like things like that. It's just bringing blood in, oxygenated, cutting it off, bringing oxygenated blood back in. So even that, so simple, can be so beneficial for people. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of those things. I feel like when you said 3 months, it's people want to jump right into it. And I understand, if you've been on this, especially if you're doing IVF, you've been on this journey a long time and you want your baby. You want your baby here. I think the flow of what's right for you and your journey, remembering that your baby also has a journey too and what
hmm
they want as well.
Thinking like creating the right internal environment, right?
Mhm.
That the climate of the insides of your body for pregnancy. Because when we're on those hormonal drugs, like a lot, we go to acidic or we go to basic, like our bodies are just like all over the map. This is foreign to your body. They don't understand. Like, why all of a sudden am I getting all these hormones? And like, what?
Mhm.
And yeah, like your body has to process that and get rid of the extra hormones and then come back to a balanced state,
Mhm.
which will be better for your embryo transfer. So, yeah. And it takes a while. That's the problem.
Absolutely. And it's one thing to get pregnant, but it's also about sustaining it too.
Mhm.
And the lining is a huge part of that.
It is, as is the sperm.
Mhm.
Let's not forget about the sperm. So, yeah.
Right, the sperm is a huge part of that too, but in IVF that they've most likely looked at those embryos, so that's one of the benefits of IVF.
Mhm.
Is that you can know whether or not it's genetically normal if you're getting them tested, which most people I feel like probably most people doing IVF are doing that. I feel like nowadays a lot of IVF, not for everybody, but from what I see with my clients is people having babies uh, in their 40s, even late 30s, and that's a lot of what it can be. And it's so important for natural conception too. Can't
Oh,
forget
yeah.
about yeah. I mean, the blood flow is so important.
And the quality of the blood too.
Yes,
Like, you
yes.
don't want it too thick and gooey.
And it's your overall physical experience too, just not just outside of fertility. Because if you have congealed blood that's not great quality, then that can create other imbalances of degenerative problems in your body. So I like people to always think about that my fertility journey is part of the self-discovery journey. It's part of other parts of myself that are helping me to energetically be in alignment, but also physically be in alignment too. And so you discover a lot. And I know that's really hard for people listening, that you can feel sometimes like, well, I don't want this. Like, why is this happening? Um, yeah, it's just it's part of the journey. Everyone's journey is different. Unfortunately, it's not always fun when you're in the thick of it and you don't always have the answers. So, lots of compassion and love there. So,
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about the Ayurvedic medicine for fertility.
Okay. Well, do you have 50,000 years to talk about? Like
I know,
Ayurveda? It's
right?
like tell me about Chinese medicine.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
it's right. It's like such a vast
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like you could study Ayurveda for the rest of your life and hardly even touch the surface of it. But it is really considered the sister science of yoga. So the health, like Ayur means life, Veda means knowledge or wisdom. So it's like the knowledge of life. And it's how do we take care of our vessel, our body that is giving us our human experience right now. So it's really looking at like you probably heard this quote, like you're a spiritual person having yogic, a human bodily experience, right? You're not
Yeah.
a body having a spiritual experience, right? So, and if we look at like, how do we take care of ourselves and create that balance? It's all about the balance. Everything is always being thrown off balance, and we try and bring it back to balance. And then it's balanced for a little bit, and then you go on an airplane, then it's off balance again, and then you bring it back to balance. So a lot of it is just being aware, like being self-aware of what is happening in your own body. And for that, I mean, I've been studying it for years and practicing for years, and it's still, I still need to remind myself, like, oh, you don't feel well. Well, what happened? What did you just do? Are you feeling hot? Are you cold? Are you damp? Are you dry? Like, how do I how do I do the little things to keep myself in balance? When we're talking about fertility, I mean, everybody is different. It's an individualized health system. So everybody's different. Everybody's got different levels of elements in them. And I'm not going to go too crazy into the doshas and so on. Um, but when we're looking at fertility, we could say, okay, we fill out all these paperwork. I can look at your body and be like, okay, this is what I think is out of balance. And here are some things to bring it back into balance. Mostly what I see people have of vata imbalance, which is air and ether, which is really mobility and movement. And it's easy to move, it's light, it's subtle. So with fertility, there is a level of stress that comes along with it. And stress is really vata, just like blowing and scattering everything. And then that blows on, it pushes itself onto our fire, which is our pitta part of ourselves, which can make things just really, really hot or put everything out. And then we just get really dry. And yeah, and a lot of it is that push, 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 which is very pitta, that fiery, right? We were talking about solar sort of energies of I gotta do this, gotta like perfectionism, things like that fall into this category of like, I'm right. I've always worked hard. Harder I work, the more success I have. I'm gonna do fertility the same way. And it just doesn't work that way. We need to be like, ah, okay, give it some space. Like I was saying, like um, reconnect with the feminine, find the softer side of the experience.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I think It's just it's interesting, I think, for a lot of people. I get this too, as with Eastern, with I also Chinese medicine, Eastern philosophy. And there's so many crossovers, and I would see that as liver cheese stagnation and be a big one.
Mhm.
Where that
Well,
cheese
the liver.
Yeah,
The liver
exactly.
is so important. Like we're talking
It's
about blood and hormones, like,
yeah,
and we just do not take care of our livers in Western
no.
society. They're just constantly being bombarded with toxins and things like that that we need to try and figure out.
Mhm,
The body needs to figure out, where am I going to put all these toxins? Oh, like a tumor here, a cyst there, a skin tag there, right? Like we have, yeah, but yeah, liver. We talk about livers a lot in Ayurveda as well. So
mhm. Oh, yeah, I knew
it's
that was
so
gonna hit.
it's so important. It's like it is the master, right? Like it tells
Mm,
your whole body, like it is responsible for, this is what I love. My teacher always says, it's like, isn't it crazy how you can eat something and it turns into your eyeball? Or like, right? Like you are literally like anything that you put in your mouth, your body obviously needs to digest, but then the liver mostly decides, where is that going? Right?
mhm,
Like where are the minerals going? Where's the protein going? But how what you put in your mouth directly reflects the tissues of your body. And I think we really forget that as we
mhm,
eat in our Western world. And Ayurveda is a lot about the food and digestion and how to optimize what we're eating for our individual self so that we can be balanced
mhm.
when we're eating properly for ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's a huge part of fertility because I think about it as the soil. It's really the soil that's helping you to plant the seed, and so
Yep.
your digestion is off and the liver's toxic, which that would be estrogen dominance a lot of times, which
Hmm.
estrogen creates all kinds of degenerative, specifically cancer and tumors. And is one of the biggest fertility obstacles that there is. Estrogen dominance is a real problem, and it is for men too. It's on both
Yeah.
spectrum.
With all the xenoestrogens that are in
Mhm.
every
Yeah.
single product ever, microplastics and phthalates
Mhm.
and all of the fragrance. So don't get me started. Don't get me started about fragrance. But yeah, I mean, they're basically, the xenoestrogens are connecting to our estrogen receptors.
Mhm.
So we're not actually getting the good estrogen, like the real estrogen that our bodies
Yep.
want. And we're getting fake synthetic estrogen that the body doesn't know what to do with because it's foreign to it. Yeah. Well, one thing that often hits home for my students and in my group programs for them is how I explain, like people feel like they need to be perfect all the time around toxins. Like,
Mm.
like every single thing in my house needs to be perfectly non-toxic. I cannot eat a non-organic vegetable. I blah blah blah. Like everything, organic cotton sheets, everything, everything, everything. And the way we talk about it in Ayurveda is, well, no, like you don't have to be perfect. What you're trying to do is remove the burden where you can. So for some people, for me, I was like, I love essential oils. That was an easy swap for me to go to like essential oils to clean my counters and in my bathroom and with my soap and things like that. And so I know when I'm doing that, my body's less burdened, right? And all those little things that I am able to do, my body doesn't have to process that. So when I do eat the strawberry that's not organic, my body can deal with it. So I'm not looking for perfection. Like a lot of people get so hung up on that and they're like, oh my God, I ate that birthday cake and it didn't have organic flour in it. And oh my gosh, all that work that I've done is gone. I'm like, no, all that work that you have done is working, right? Like your body will now be able to process that better. So it's like, how do we strip away the burdens where we can, so that the body can have more energy to put it into building good reproductive tissues?
Absolutely. I love that. That's such a great way of putting it. Remove the burden. And even if you think about your liver, If your liver is so burdened by all of the toxins and that exactly. And I love you brought up the cake. It's okay to eat the cake once in a while.
Oh my gosh,
Eat
yes.
the cake. I tell my clients, eat something you want once a week. It's okay.
Yeah,
Do something you want to do that might not be in the perfect realm. I mean, you're already perfect anyway, but if
yeah.
we could absolutely do the best that we can at removing those burdens. But stress creates a huge problem. And if we're trying, again, to be obsessive over doing everything right of that A type personality, we're not really getting anywhere. So, absolutely, I'm not a huge fan of that whole thing either, of people trying to do everything right because you're doing so much. You're
Yeah,
doing
and
a
then
great job.
there's stress and then there's guilt if it
Mm,
doesn't happen that one time, and like it's doing more harm, the stress and the guilt and that,
mhm.
than the not eating the organic non-organic strawberry. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, um, I know that you have some wonderful tools for people as far as some complementary sort of tools. And you had mentioned that you have a quiz, and that sounds really interesting. Tell us about that and where people can access that.
Yeah, and I'll give you the direct link for the landing page so people can just go straight into it to do the quiz. But it's fun. It's a fun thing. It's not 100% accurate, I'm going to say, but it is a dosha quiz. So in Ayurveda, we have the elements and we break them up into like three: the vata, air and ether; pitta is fire and water; and kapha is earth and water.
Mhm.
And we all have all of the three in us, all of the elements in us in different ratios and so on. Um, but we usually have one dominant, or at least one very dominant with a second close dominant in our systems. But if we can understand where we're starting, like what's our baseline, we can start to understand so much about our fertility. So like if you're pitta, like you're already hot, right? You're a doer, you do things, you're type A personality sort of folks. Um, right? Like then you can be like, okay, this is who I am, and I'm acknowledging that, and that's wonderful that you are who you are. But here are some things that can help support my pitta friends, some yoga poses and breath work and things like that. So you take the quiz, it'll tell you sort of where you're at, and then it'll give you some yoga poses you can do. It's all based around fertility. Um, and also the mental emotional experience is part of it. It's just not physical all the time, but for example, kapha, which is earth and water, is heavy. So kapha folks tend to get more depressed on the journey. They're more like slow and like depressed and hard to change direction, that sort of thing. Whereas pitta folks will be, guess what, fiery. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to be angry. They're going to get frustrated. They're just like, ah, they're the ones throwing things. That was me, throwing things and like screaming and all of that. Whereas the vata, which is the air and the ether and the subtle, like I said, very connected with stress, um, it will be more of an anxiety situation for people that are vata. So if you know that about yourself, you can be like, okay, there's no right, there's no wrong. This is just my tendency. So I'm going to put things in place to take care of myself in those areas. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's the quiz.
that's amazing. And yeah, how wonderful to know yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
And
such a
that
good
can
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can really help. It's wonderful that you have that tool for people. Because people might not know. They might not even know to ask a question about that. So the fact that you have that. So definitely check that out on her website. And I will make sure that I link everything in the show notes so that you guys can get access to Carrie as well as her wonderful tools that she has in her programs. And just real quick, tell us where people can find you. What's the best place to find you?
So probably the website is the best. It's www.fertilebodyyoga.com. And on there is pretty well everything that I have to offer. There's other freebies on there. There's a free class and a free meditation. So, you know, there's lots of info. What's coming up is also on there because there's programs happening almost all the time, except in the summer. So things are going to start bumping pretty soon as we're coming out of the summer during recording. But yeah, that's probably the best place. I'm on Instagram, Fertile Body Yoga on Instagram. Those are probably the two best places to find me.
Amazing. I like to end with some words of wisdom. And so, do you have any words of wisdom or last encouraging tidbits that you can add to this episode for someone that's listening that might be struggling with fertility obstacles?
I feel like I maybe touched on them a little bit with what's missing in the fertility world. But I think if I were to say one thing, just in a bigger sense, would be to slow down and take a beat every now and again and take a moment to enjoy the life that is going on all around you and not be so focused fertility everything all the time. And yeah, give yourself a little bit of space to have other things in your life too. It's it can be hard. I'm not saying it's easy. Um, but yeah, even just stopping for a moment, closing your eyes, sitting under a tree, taking a few deep breaths, like that will do more for your nervous system than so many other things that we're always saying, go and do this, go and do that for your nervous system regulation. Just go sit under a tree and breathe. Be good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
slow
love
down.
that. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And Carrie, it just was wonderful to have you today. I know that you are just a wealth of knowledge, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. It's fun to talk to you because we're like doo, 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 on the same little wavelength. So it's all great. Thank
That
you.
is very, very true. It's wonderful to meet like-minded individuals on a path to help people. So thank you so much, Carrie. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this space with us today. If something in this conversation softened you, opened you, or reminded you that your body is wise, hold that knowing. Your spirit baby felt it. Surrender isn't losing control. It's aligning with the frequency where everything begins to flow. And if you're ready for deeper support, I invite you into my Fertility Reset program. This is where we take everything you're learning here, energy alignments, nervous system regulation, intuitive conception, and spirit baby connection, and apply it directly to your journey. It's individualized, intentional, and fully tailored to your body, your energy, and your timeline. This isn't about pushing. It's about aligning with what's already yours. If your body is whispering yes at any point, trust it. The link to apply is in the show notes. And if this episode nourished you, share it with someone who needs to know they are not broken. Leaving a review on Apple or Spotify helps this message reach more women who are walking the sacred path. We are on almost every single app available out there. Our next episode, we will dive into something that could change everything: the gut-womb axis, microbiome, inflammation, and intuition. We'll explore how gut health, inflammation, and intuitive body signals shape your hormones, your womb, and your ability to conceive. If you've ever wondered, is my gut affecting my fertility? Why do I feel a womb response when I eat certain foods? And is my intuition guiding me? And much more. You won't want to miss it. Your womb listens, and your intuition knows. And I'll see you in the next episode.